Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer 40k Combat Patrol magazine. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, and of course, drop me a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys and it really does go a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, this week, it is issue number 62, and in all honesty, it's been a long time, but this is a paint issue, so nothing super spectacular to write home about, but we do get 2 pots of paint. So we get Caliban Green, which is a very good dark green paint. So if, for instance, if you ever wanted to go, I don't know, Dark Angels or anything like that, works wonders on that. It is going to be utilised pretty much on our Astra Militarum, I can almost guarantee it. But it's a very, very good paint. I do quite like Caliban Green. Never really have a lot of call to utilise it, but it is a very nice colour. It's a nice dark green, and I must admit, yeah, it's not very often you see it come with these magazines, so it is what it is. After that one, obviously, we get Wild Rider Red. So, Wild Rider Red is an orangey red colour. It is going to be utilised mostly for edge highlights on certain items and stuff like that. It's not going to be very often you're going to use Wild Rider Red as the entirety of the colour. However, you can do if you're going to be highlighting with your oranges and yellows and stuff like that later on. But it's a pretty good paint. It is quite versatile for reds, and even things like Barracuda Burgundy can work very, very nicely with that. But yeah, it's a decent paint. I do use this one myself, and semi-regular, in all honesty, but it's, you know, it does very good. So pretty cool stuff. Anywho, moving on from there, firstly, going into the issue, obviously we have a paint guide. So it's a paint issue, so it's all about kind of adding and kind of improving on the minis we already have. So if you're following the guide, you're going to want to dig out your Eldari minis and start edge highlighting with Wild Rider Red on the armor panels, the good old jet bike panels and everything like that, and even things like cloaks and robes of the good old Farseer and such like that. Personally, the edge highlight on the robes can do very, very well. I personally do like to kind of blend the highlight into the good old back of a cloak over the larger areas, so where it's not quite the very, very edge or anything like that. But yeah, it is how you want to do it, so it's up to you. But yeah, pretty good stuff. When you're done with that, your Eldari are going to look something like that, which does look good, I must admit. Yeah, it's not bad at all. Considering I've not painted my Eldari yet, that's actually not bad at all. Will do very, very well to keep you going. There will still be more parts to do later on as well, though, so just be aware of that. Moving on from there, carrying on with our good old Space Marines, so utilising the Wild Rider Red as highlights for things like the Sergeant's helmet, even a tiny little bit on the eye lenses for the good old Space Marine helmets themselves as well, and a few extra areas as well. So you can make it look very, very nice, and you can add more to it. So utilising your highlighting and obviously being very, very careful with it, you can get some really nice colours. My biggest gripe is the very, very thick highlighting on back of cloaks. I don't enjoy that personally. However, it can look very, very nice if done well, but you can kind of bring it up and kind of water it down a little bit. So thin it down a little tiny bit, go with a thicker line, then thin it down a little tiny bit more and stuff like that, so it has a bit more of a blend to it. Can make it look very, very nice. But yeah, it does very, very well. It does exactly the job that you need it to do, and yeah, can't knock it too much. Even though I will try sometimes, yeah, you can make a very nice looking mini out of it, and yeah, you'll have something that looks a bit more like that. Even utilising things like Auric Flesh for the good old eye lenses for the Sergeant's helmet, for instance, works really, really nicely, because you're probably not going to want to do it red, because it's too much red in one place, isn't it? It won't look right. Carrying on from there though, with Wild Rider Red on things like any cloaks, on things like the barb gaunts and stuff like that, and even the cloak for the good old mages from last week and stuff like that. You can get some really, really nice places to put these edge highlights to, and even things like on your good old Leagues of Votan. So Wild Rider Red, if you're following the guide, is going to come in very, very handily over time. So it will work very, very nicely. Once you're done, you're going to have stuff that looks like that, which, yeah, does look good. I can't knock it. It does look pretty decent. There's probably a few more thicker highlights than I personally would do, but it looks nice. It looks very good. So, happy days. Moving on from there, we get a read section giving us more lore about the Genestealer Cult, the path to ascension. So, once a Genestealer Patriarch has established a cult on a host world, it will take many generations for its dark purpose to come to fruition. During this time, cultists will prepare for the day of ascension, when their alien gods will finally reveal themselves and descend upon the world. Although every cult is different, its beliefs and practices informed by the world on which it is formed, each will pass through similar stages of development. Initially, the cult will operate in secret as the Patriarch infects the population and spreads its influence. As the cult grows, it will work to establish a power base that it can use to prepare for the arrival of the cult's alien gods. Later, as a hive fleet draws near, the Patriarch will lead the cult in violent revolution, destabilizing imperial rule and leaving the planet vulnerable to Tyranid invasion. So, as we've kind of already discussed with the good old Genestealer Cult, they do have a little bit of a thing for, bowing down to these lovely, lovely Genestealers and, mutating away from humanity, and then they'll have a violent uprising. Sometimes it's quelled, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the Tyranids land and, go for it and go ham on the population. It can be what it is, but it can be quite good fun. So it's an interesting way of doing it. So, and quite an interesting way of getting these stories. And there's loads of little stories about the Genestealer cults here, there, and everywhere over the 41st millennium that have some real good subterfuge in them and stuff like that. So it can be really, really entertaining and really fun to read the fiction. So it's definitely worth having a nosy through and finding some really good ones. So, it can be good fun. Moving on from there, we get a nice section about heavy vehicles. Now, heavy vehicles, I must admit, I really, really like the heavy vehicles in 40k. There are some real good ones. So, there are, for instance, the Rogel Dawn battle tank for the Astra Militarum. It's a mobile bastion that is used by the Astra Militarum armies to anchor their battle lines or to spearhead armoured assaults. And it's a pretty nice looking tank, I must admit. I do really, really like it. There are bigger tanks as well with the Astra Militarum, but I like it. It's a nice tank. I do genuinely think it's a pretty good one. One thing that Games Workshop do very, very nicely, apart from designing really cool miniatures, is they design real nice tanks. There are other game systems out there that are futuristic and stuff like that, where the tanks are a little bit lackluster or a little bit comical and stuff like that, and they don't look very good. I mean, that's not to say that GW have not made some pretty terrible ones, but majority of them are absolute bangers. So they're really, really good stuff. So definitely worth a nosy at. You got things like the Chaos Predator, which, in all honesty, it's an old kit now. It's been around for quite some time, but if it's not broke, don't try to fix it. It works exactly how you want it to. The Predators and things like that, and a lot of the Land Raiders and stuff like that, and that type of vehicle, are essentially throwbacks to the Horus Heresy, and they're very similar to some of the Horus Heresy minis and stuff like that. So they work very, very nicely. Then you've got things like the Primaris Repulsors, which are essentially anti-gravity kind of hovercraft style tanks, which aren't bad. They look very similar to the Predators and Rhinos and stuff like that. They just don't have the tracks, and they have that hover propulsion instead, which in some ways is very, very nice. In some ways is a little bit daft looking. I must admit, I'm not a fan of the repulsors. I think they could have done something slightly better with it. I think the tracked vehicles work far better, in my opinion anyway. And then you got things like for the Eldari, Fire Prism and stuff like that, which I must admit, I do really like. I think that looks really, really cool. It's super futuristic, and it looks like it is definitely something a little bit more sleeker and faster and everything like that. Whether it's a bit more tougher, no, but it looks like it's designed for a bit of speed and some pretty cool nifty maneuvers, so it can look really, really good. Then obviously you've got other heavy tanks, so things like the Hecaton Land Fortress for the good old Leagues of Votan. Absolute banger. I love that vehicle. I still need to get my hands on one because I haven't, but it's a real cool vehicle. Kind of technically not a tank, but technically it can be a tank, and yeah, it is what it is. And there are a few others as well, so definitely worth having a nosy through, because you get some real cool vehicles for good old 40k. So it's definitely worth having a nose at them, depending on what faction you want to go for anyway. Obviously, if you're going for Tyranids, you don't have any tanks. Anywho, you get a bit more fiction, so the Enmity of Hope. So a nice little bit of new fiction for us. It seems it might be a little bit more darker than the usual, but happy days. I do like a bit of fiction, even though I'm not been reading all of these, and I have been kind of not been paying that much attention to them. But you know, if you like your Warhammer fiction, this is up your alley. So pretty cool stuff. Moving on from there, though, we have Campaign 12, Space Marines vs Leagues of Votan in Sweeping Raid. I'm always going to go for Leagues of Votan personally, but yeah, have a bit of fun with that. It's a real good scenario. You can have a little bit of good fun with it. Obviously, the idea with all of these is play them to death and work out your victors overall and everything like that, and you might get a very even score at the end of everything. You might get one combat patrol that has performed far better than all the others. It is the way it goes. Then we have another campaign, so Tyranids versus the Leagues of Votan, utilising display of might as a scenario for that one. Again, pretty cool stuff. I will always go Leagues of Votan. Yeah, even for that one. But really, real cool stuff. And happy days. So that's all our playing through. Obviously, next week we'll have another issue. Issue number 63 is more Genestealer Cult. So the 5 Acolyte hybrids. I must admit, I'm looking forward to these guys. They look a bit more fun. I like the dark guy with the disc cutter. That makes me laugh. It makes me chuckle. Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. Then issues 64 and 65 are the Neophyte hybrid minis. We get 10 split across 2 issues. It is what it is. I don't enjoy them doing that, but yeah, it's the way that they always going to do that, in all honesty. But yeah, these are also pretty cool, pretty good stuff. And then we've got obviously a lot more real cool Genestealers to come. So things like the Atalant Jackals. We've got the Goliath Rock Truck to come. So yeah, some real good stuff. And happy days. And then we obviously move on to the Astra Militarum, which will be really good fun as well. And then finally the World Eaters. So that'll lead us to the very end, and then by that time good old Age of Sigmar Spearhead should be out as well, which will be good fun. Anyway, that is enough from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye bye now.